President Biden is hitting the campaign trail this weekend and focusing his energy on black voters. He'll visit Georgia this weekend, which Biden won in 2020 by a less than 1% margin. A recent New York Times poll, though, shows Trump currently leading Biden in the Peach State by 9 points. The president will speak with voters Sunday before delivering a commencement address at Morehouse College. Before his trip, he marked the 70th anniversary of the Brown versus Board of Education ruling that ended racial segregation in schools.
Education is linked to freedom, because to be free means to have something that no one can ever take away from you. And that's the power of an education.
CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins me now. Nikole, always good to talk to you. Obviously, there is no group of voters that, based off of demographics, are a monolith. That said, Biden is really putting a lot of effort into trying to court the black electorate, especially there in Georgia. What's behind it?
Well, a couple of things. Obviously, we saw him today speak at the Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. to mark the 70th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education. Of course, a critical case, a landmark case that led to the desegregation of public schools in this country. And so obviously you have the timing there and the significance of that event with the president saying that, black history is American history. And it kind of dovetails with some of the events that we have here in Atlanta, of course, with the commencement coming up for Morehouse College, a historically black college and university, which is the alma mater of the slain civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So, some of it is just the timing of events, but also some of it is location. As you mentioned, we know that Georgia is a very critical battleground state for the president in the sense that he flipped it back in 2020, but according to some of the latest polling that is out there, some of his numbers have been sliding, and he has actually fallen behind former President Trump in some polls. So that is why you will see the president with a pretty extensive presence here, not only coming for that speech at Morehouse College, but also stopping here Saturday as well ahead of that speech to engage African-American voters. Also, he will be here fundraising. So I'm sure this won't be the last time we'll see him in the Peach State.
I think you're right on that, Nikole. But let's talk a little bit more about that speech at Morehouse, because there's been a lot of concern about the possibility of protests and the actual commencement being disrupted. What more can you tell us?
Well, we are expecting things to proceed as planned, although Morehouse's president has made clear that if there are any signs of massive disruptions, it is possible that he could halt the ceremony right then and there. And in talking to a number of students, they hope that that is not the case. But I think everybody understands the moment and that this is a fine line to walk, right? Obviously, Morehouse College, as I mentioned, being a historically black college and university, really has a history of social justice and activism. And so that's why it's very difficult for some of these students and faculty members to kind of reconcile that kind of history and legacy with what they see happening, for instance, in the Middle East, and their concerns around the president's policies that they feel he may not being enough with respect to his handling between the war between Israel and Hamas. Particularly a lot of concern on the part of many students and faculty about the situation in Gaza and the plight of Palestinians, as we have seen thousands of them killed. Obviously, there have been thousands of deaths on the Israeli side as well, but it is a very difficult conflict, and certainly one with very passionate, feelings on both sides. And so, whether or not there are vociferous protests Sunday remains to be seen. But certainly, the university is taking steps to be prepared. They have put up fencing around the school. It's a ticketed event, so it will be hard for outsiders to get inside of the ceremony. But that being said, there could be some students who decide to do more of a silent protest, whether that's potentially turning their backs to the president or potentially wearing garb. It's kind of an individual decision. So again, kind of remains to be seen how this all will transpire.
All right, Nikole Killion, thank you.